Now, live from Whitney Media, 1460 WVOX, the Greenburgh Report, with Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner. You can join in the conversation at 914-636-0110. Now on 1460 WVOX, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Hi, I'm Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor. And last year, a magazine called Inside the Vatican magazine named the top 10 leaders of the Catholic faith who made a difference in 2022. One individual who they profiled was Bishop Jude Arodundade. And the bishop is known to residents of Greenburgh and Elmsford because he was a pastor at Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Elmsford. But now he's taken on a more internationally important role. He is the bishop at the Catholic Diocese of Ondo in Nigeria. And with me today as special guests are Nina DeLuca, USA Secretary to the Bishop of Ondo, and we have the Bishop. And so thank you very much. Maybe I'll start. I just want to ask Nini, because you are so passionate about the Bishop, and you've been such a great supporter. Why is the Bishop such an incredible human being?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having us today and once again bringing Bishop Jude to your show. Bishop Jude, as you mentioned, was our pastor and with us at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Elmsford for 12 years. At the end of the 12 years, Pope Benedict elevated Bishop back home as Bishop of, as you mentioned, the Catholic Diocese of Ondo. However, while Bishop was with us, many of us got to know him. His humility, his intelligence, his integrity were all a part of why we began working with Bishop at Our Lady of Mount Carmel. And subsequent to his elevation, there are about a dozen of us that comprised the New York office for the Catholic Diocese of Ondo, where we work on various projects with him. We've gone to Nigeria 3 times. We were privileged to do that, to meet the good people of the Diocese of Ondo, very beautiful people, very warm people. And I always say the first time we went to Nigeria, it was for Bishop Jude. However, we've gone back time and time again to help the people of Ondo as well, who have definitely carved out a spot in all of our hearts, those of us on the team.
Bishop, how many residents live in Ondo?
Well, Ondo State has a population of about 4 million people, but the Catholic population is a little less than 500,000.
Wow, so it's a
it's a large Catholic populated area in Nigeria.
Is it a big change to go from a church in Elmsford to overseeing a very large 500,000 Catholic population in Ondo, Nigeria?
When I was in Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Elmsford, here in Westchester, New York, that is a parish, just one parish. But I am now a bishop of a whole diocese. And so in a diocese, you may have, like my diocese has 64 parishes. So the entire diocese, the population is just a little less than 500,000.
And one of the big problems you had is there was a terrorist incident. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes.
And what you've been trying to do?
Yes, last year, precisely on June 5, 2022, which was the Pentecost Sunday in the Catholic world. Pentecost is 50 days after the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. So during the mass of that day in St. Francis Xavier Church in Owo. Owo is a town within my diocese. So the largest parish in that town was attacked by a group that has been identified as ISWAP, and the meaning of that is Islamic State of West African Province, ISWAP. This group are very deadly. They are just like Boko Haram and some of the terrorist groups that we have in the sub-Saharan Africa. And so, well, the attack took place, and about 41 people, not about 41 people precisely were killed, and about 83 people were seriously injured. And we have been dealing with that, running around trying to make sure that we treat the sick. Thank God, many of them have left the hospital except for a middle-aged woman who suffered spinal cord injury, and she's now paralyzed from waist down.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Has the terrorist incident attracted a lot of international attention?
Certainly, this continued to attract international attention, because I was invited to speak to a few members of the Congress who took interest in what happened at that time, and they did their best. They promised to put more light to what was going on.
We have to take a break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. And my guests are Nini DeLuca, USA Secretary to the Bishop of Ondo, the Catholic Diocese of Ondo, and we have Bishop Jude Arodundade, who oversees the Catholic Diocese of Ondo, Nigeria, and he's formerly with Elmsford, Lady of Mount Carmel Church.
1460 WVOX.
Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and my guest today is the Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Ondo, Nigeria, Bishop Jude Arodundade, and also Nini DeLuca, who is the USA Secretary to the Bishop of Ondo. And while I'm interviewing the bishop, he was formerly the pastor of a prominent church in Elmsford, Mount Carmel, Lady of Mount Carmel Church, and a lot of people appreciate what he did and what an inspiring figure he was when he was the leader of the church in Elmsford, and they want to be supportive. Before the break, we were talking about a terrorist incident, and the bishop indicated that you've met with members of Congress. I believe you also even spoke before the House of Commons in London.
Yes.
And what are public officials around the world doing after a major terrorist incident?
Well, the public officials around the world have been outraged about the situation, and some have, reached out to the Nigerian government to see what they can do to help to stop the killings that have been going on for years now. And unfortunately, the situation continues to be the same because people are not held accountable. And once people are not held accountable for their crimes, they tend to commit even more and make it becoming more daring in carrying out those attacks.
So when you're talking about the terrorist attack that had occurred, it's still occurring, maybe not focusing on a Catholic church, but people could be walking down the street
Yes,
and they're...
of course, a lot of kidnapping. People have been kidnapped, and you have to pay a lot of ransom in order to get them released, and that is still going on. And places are being attacked, villages are being sacked. It's a very terrible situation that we have been faced with in Nigeria for the past 2 years, for the past 10 years.
So as a bishop, is your role to bring attention to this? And how do you do you deal directly with the Nigerian government saying we have to make terrorists accountable?
Yes, we talk about this a lot. We try to tell the government that there's no way you can allow those who are taking human lives and destroying properties and to continue to get away with it unpunished. That has been the situation. The impunity that is going on in Nigeria today is unprecedented.
Are the officials in Nigeria just afraid of the terrorists, or are they complicit? Or
they are just complicit. That's what I can say, and I can say that anywhere. I have said it again and again that the Nigerian authority has been very complicit in matters relating to terrorism. And that is why they have become so brazen in their actions, and they go as far as attacking even military base in some bases in some part of Nigeria, and they have become so emboldened because people have not been held accountable, and I have continued to say until you hold those who are behind this, the sponsors, if you do not hold them accountable, then you are just not ready to tackle the issue of terrorism in Nigeria. And
as a pastor in a congregation where there's terrorism, are you afraid for yourself?
Well, everybody is afraid. I'm afraid, of course. But we are not going to be intimidated to the point of not doing what we ought to do. We still go ahead doing whatever we need to do, and we keep raising awareness so that the whole world may pay attention to what is going on and help in whatever way they can help to stop the killings that are going on almost every part of Nigeria.
Is it more dangerous for a bishop to speak out against, say, the Nigerian government because it would probably be easier for you to do nothing or just say I'm against the killings and not be as activist as you are?
Well, it would have been easier, but to take the easy road, we mean to allow things to continue to get worse. Somebody has to speak out. I mean, we were ordained to minister to the people, to serve the people, and to work for the salvation of everyone. So we have to be at the forefront, raising awareness and making people to realize that this is unacceptable because we are civilized people in Nigeria. And how did we get to this point? That is the question that everyone is asking. And until the government hold people accountable for their crimes, well, we don't know whether this will ever stop. What is going on for us is that an election has just been done. Well, we don't know how credible that election was, but at least somebody is waiting to be sworn in as the president. Hopefully, he will tackle the issue of insecurity in Nigeria. And we have been very hopeful that probably in the nearest future, things may begin to change. But as it is today, people are still being killed, especially in a part of Nigeria where we call the Middle Belt, in Kaduna State and in Benue State, for example. It's almost on daily basis. Villages are being sacked, people are being killed, kidnapped, and so on. Even in my own diocese, recently, or last 2 years, a priest was kidnapped for almost 5 days before we could rescue him, because we could get him released. So it has become almost a daily situation that we are faced with.
Do you have to, when you're going around Nigeria, do you have to have your own security?
Yeah, for a long time that was going on, but with the present situation, we still try as much as possible to stay away from situations that we warrant any form of attack on us. But
Nini, is one of the reasons why you're so passionate about helping because the bishop is so brave and courageous. You know, is that one of the reasons why you spend so much time on this?
Absolutely. Bishop Jude's rather humble about his shining the light. There's no other way to say it on this issue very bravely, even though some of our senior members in the church are concerned for his safety. He feels that it's his responsibility to make sure the light stays on this subject. The other thing that is interesting, Paul, is that Bishop Jude has now responsibility for all these families, those that passed away, those that are injured, and their surviving relatives. It's not like here in America where people have health insurance or life insurance. That does not exist there in the form that we know here in the United States. Bishop Jude is responsible for the financial, mental, and spiritual well-being of all these people. Their doctor's bills, their hospital bills, that all falls on his shoulders. Hence the need for help. And we obviously, in good times as well as in bad, are right there for him to help support him, support those in need.
So one of the things that you do is fundraise, and you have a YouTube GoFundMe page.
Yes, we do. Anyone can go to Bishop Jude's Facebook page, Catholic Diocese of Ondo, Ondo, and it's pinned right up at the top, the GoFundMe page.
Do you find that when there's terrorist incidences all over the world, when there's a terrorist incident in Europe, it gets say front page in the Times constantly. If there's a terrorist incident in Africa, it may get front page, and then it fades from memory. Is that a problem?
That is exactly, you have described the situation perfectly, that when it happened, the whole world knew about it, but the news has sort of gone out of the headlines of our newspapers and on the social medias and all that. So, but I have tried to put pressure and shed light on this issue all around the world so that people may continue to realize that it is not acceptable for a group of criminals, terrorists, come into a church and kill 41 people, and you just allow that to go away. Wounded almost 83 people, and so we should just forget about it and walk away. That is the situation.
Are the terrorists affiliated with any international rings, or is it more of a Nigerian terrorist?
Certainly, they are affiliated with Al-Qaeda and some of the widely known terrorist groups around the world. And they have been very active in the northern part of Nigeria until they moved to the south. I am from the southern part of Nigeria, and this attack on St. Francis Church has been the worst they have carried out in this western part of Nigeria. But in the north, it's almost on daily basis, and they are doing whatever they just they want to do, and create a lot of pain and injury. And most of the families have been displaced from their homes, and some live in IDP camps, internally displaced persons camp, all around Nigeria. So that's the situation at the moment.
I'm sort of wondering, do the terrorists sometimes deal with, say, different churches or businesses and say, give me a paying like every month, and then we'll leave you alone? Does that happen?
Well, it hasn't gotten to that point yet. But there was a governor in Nigeria, in the middle belt of Nigeria, Kaduna State, who once said that they have paid them off not to kill people anymore. If a governor of a state will say that,
Wow.
that is really too unfortunate for
Right.
a country that is a regional power in Africa.
We have to take a break, and then we'll be right back. I'm Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh town supervisor, and we're talking with the Bishop of Ondo, Nigeria, talking about terrorism. And he again was the leader of congregation in Elmsford before becoming bishop in Ondo. I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh town supervisor.
Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Hi, I'm Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh town supervisor, and I was reading Inside the Vatican magazine. It was a publication, last year, and they mentioned the top 10 people in the world who have made a difference, a positive difference in terms of making a difference in terms of the Catholic Church. And Bishop Jude Arodundade was one of those 10 people. When you were speaking to the House of Commons in London, you mentioned that there's so much terrorism, it could be bordering on genocide. And do you feel that this is a problem of genocide?
Well, if the world pay more attention to Nigeria at the moment, and you look at the trend for the past 10 years, of course, it measures up to a level of genocide. Because as I said earlier, villages has been sacked, people have been killed, and in large numbers. And this has been happening for the past 10, 15 years. And so whatever happened in our church, St. Francis Xavier Church in Owo, on June 5th, 2022, on Pentecost Sunday, was just one of the so many. And the one that happened on that day has become the one that is all over, that people know about, that people hear about. But the others that are happening on a daily basis, people are not aware. In fact, sometimes news no longer, papers no longer carry that news for the world to know what exactly, how deadly, how evil things have become in this part of Nigeria. But speaking to the members of the House of Commons last year, I made them to understand that it is getting worse because people are not held accountable. Okay? And if in a country for the past 10 years, we are talking of more than 5,000 to 8,000 people that has been killed this way, I think that certainly measure up to what can be conveniently called genocide.
Right, and I think one of the problems is that with the internet, the news only has a shelf life of maybe a day, and there's so much terrorism all over the world and so many killings that it gets on the page one today, and tomorrow there's a terrorist incident someplace else, or a mass shooting someplace, and then the media gravitates to the other, more recent news. It's unfortunately happening, all over. As a religious leader, do you sometimes lose your faith, or when you see all this horrible things and people being killed for no reason, How do you keep
Well,
your religious faith?
yeah, it only tells me that the world is evil, and we have to work harder to win more people from the evil world and make them better people. And the Catholic Church, as you know, have been very good at this right from in history, with many schools and social centers and all that we do to reform people and to bring younger people to a greater awareness of the fact that they have to live better lives and try to stay away from crimes and all that.
Yeah, I have always been an admirer of Nini DeLuca for all that you've done and for your kindness and your sensitivity to help the less fortunate. And I'm wondering, when you hear about all these horrible things in the world, you are religious, and do you how do you keep your faith when you've observed so many horrible things happening?
Well, I definitely cling to my faith even more so in the face of these, as Bishop said, evil occurrences. I just stand by my faith, Paul. I feel blessed. I feel fortunate that I live where I live, but I also have a very compassionate heart for people who are in these situations. And again, going to Nigeria and personally now knowing many people from Nigeria, they are such a beautiful community of people that should not be going through what they're going through. And so, again, we thank you for helping us continue to shed the light on the situation there.
And I also want to mention that you and your husband have been so involved in volunteerism and have done a lot for the fire department in Elmsford. You've highlighted positive energy rather than negative energy. So when we say, oh, the world is evil, the world there could be a lot of evil, but there's also a lot of good people in the world like you. So
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Exactly, that is the responsibility of us, the religious leader, that the world can be better. We have to work hard. I don't have to lose my faith because somebody is evil, but I have to do everything to win such a person to give away his evil ways or her evil ways.
Right. So as a bishop, you may recognize that you're not going to change the whole world, but you may be able to inspire through your actions people one at a time. Or if you're speaking before the House of Commons or the U.S. Congress, maybe you'll be able to attract attention, and maybe we'll be able to get Washington to or London or the international community to do even more. Has the United Nations helped at all?
No, we have not really gone to that level of talking to the United Nations, even though there was a time they were attacked. The office of the United Nations in Nigeria was attacked at a particular point some years back. So it has been an ongoing kind of thing. And mentioning the Congress, even here in the United States, I know great senators like Chuck Schumer and Gillibrand and many of your. This is the time for them to stand up and practically address some of the situations that are going on in Nigeria and some part of West Africa, where a group of people are just operating unchecked, operating and killing and wiping out community and taking up their lands and, settling in the land of the indigenous people, and all those kind of things are going on. And unfortunately, Sudan is another thing that has just gone out of hands, and we hope Nigeria does not go out of hands, because that will be a lot for the world to cope with, because you are talking of Nigeria with a population of more than 200 million people.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
In terms of, we were talking about the elections. Do they have contested elections, and are the elections fair in Nigeria?
Well, that is the real issue. The election that has just taken place is not free and fair. Unfortunately, it is not. But we just have to do with whatever we have in order to be able to have at least an organized society to be able to deal with the evils of the society. Because without a strong government, without a government that has some level of legitimacy, it will be very difficult to deal with the issues of terrorism and crimes that are going on daily basis in this part of Africa.
As a bishop, do you have much dealings with the president in Nigeria, or does your office, or do they basically ignore the problems?
The Catholic Church in Nigeria is very influential. We have met with the president of Nigeria on so many issues, including the issue of insecurity. And we have met with him severally. Unfortunately, we have not seen any positive result.
So they'll be courteous and they'll meet with you,
yeah, exactly.
And they'll say, "Oh, we're going to do things," and then nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
So that's very very frustrating. Nina, could you, for people who are just tuning in, could you tell listeners how they could help if they want?
Sure. So I mentioned earlier, if you go to Bishop Jude's diocese page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Catholic Diocese of Ondo, Ondo. Pinned to the top is a link for GoFundMe, which helps support the victims of the Owa attack. We're also reachable at dioceseofondo@aol.com. dioceseofondo@aol.com.
Terrific. After the break, I'd want to discuss the fact that the State Department removed Nigeria from the list of the world's worst violators of religious freedom, even though thousands of people have been killed. So maybe we could talk about that right after the break.
Okay.
I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh Town Supervisor, with a very interesting program about terrorism, Nigeria, with the former pastor of Mount Carmel Church in Elmsford, who's a bishop of Ondo, Nigeria.
WVOX.
Now back to the Greenburgh Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Hi, my name is Paul Feiner. I'm the town supervisor, and my guests are Nini DeLuca, USA Secretary to the Bishop of Ondo, and she's based in Elmsford, and Bishop Jude Arodundade, who is the Bishop of the province of Ondo in Nigeria, and was formerly the pastor of Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Elmsford. And we were talking about terrorism in Nigeria and in his area, and I wanted to mention that there was one major terrorist incident that got a lot of international attention, but a lot of people have been killed in Nigeria on a daily basis. And in 2021, the United States Department under Secretary Blinken removed Nigeria from the list of world's worst violators of religious freedom. But the U.S. nonprofit Open Doors USA found in 2021 that more Christians were killed, 4,650, than in all the rest of the world combined. And, I'm sort of wondering your feeling on that.
Yeah, well, when the United States of America took Nigeria off the list of a concerned country where persecution and terrorism or violation of human rights are taking place. We were very shocked. In fact, we reacted and wrote to the Secretary of State here, and we said, no, the situation is even getting worse, for goodness, for crying out loud. It was a thing that we didn't know where that came from. Because as I talk to you now, almost on a daily basis, there are killings and human rights violation, kidnapping, and you expect the government to take the issues of security as paramount. But even a jail, the jail that housed almost 600 of these criminals, including the worst terrorists, was broken into and everybody was set free. To this day, they have not been able to arrest anybody. This happened almost a year ago.
That's terrible.
That's horrible. These people are just operating in the streets and in our villages and in the forest unchecked. So that is what we are saying. And if this situation continues to exist, why would the United States take Nigeria off that list? And we have been writing to the Congress, in fact, part of my speech, which I made to a section of the Congress, a few of them who attended to me when I visited Washington, was that, please, Nigeria must be taken back into this list so that at least the United States, the most powerful nation of the world, can pay attention to many of the things that are happening in Nigeria. And I know that the United States know more about this atrocity going on because the American embassy in Nigeria is a very, very strong embassy that has a lot of influence in Nigeria. So it's on our newspapers, on the pages of our newspapers, every single day about how people's human rights are being violated continuously on almost every single day, and even the religious liberty of the people, how they are being violated.
That's terrible. It's when I was reading the article about you, some people are saying, which seems like ridiculous, that some of the problems are caused due to climate change, and I just can't figure that. I was trying to figure out what that has to do, how they came up with that excuse.
When the president of Ireland reacted to the attack and sort of linked the attack to climate change, that, because of the encroaching Sahara Desert, that expanding, that the desert is encroaching into other part of West Africa. I said, no, that was not the case. That was not the case at all. Terrorism in Africa has always been a kind of endemic thing, in which a section of the northern part of Nigeria has always almost been overrun by these terrorists who have taken some part of the land, some part of the communities, and simply preside over the activities of those areas. So climate change has practically nothing to do with this. These are people who just want to sack the indigenous people and settle in their lands. And especially when it comes to the issue of religion, well, they attack Christians, of course, in large number, but they also attack some Muslims too. I must say that they attack some of the liberals, some of the, I wouldn't use the word liberal, some of the Muslims who are not as radical as they are. So this is the situation we are faced with. And that's why sometimes we are very careful not to call it just entirely Christian persecution because they go to villages to sack the village and kill everybody. Sometimes they just want to get rid of those who are in those camps and villages and settle their.
And they even kill babies.
They kill babies. In the church that day, they killed a 2-year-old baby. A 2-year-old baby. How does somebody blow off the head of a 2-year-old baby? Unbelievable. These are evil people who has nothing.
And they don't get caught. They get caught and they don't.
They get caught. I mean, those who have been caught, nothing has happened. I mean, no example have been made. If you do not punish their crimes, they will be emboldened. And that's what is going on. These people have been so emboldened to the point that they go about committing their crimes and they know they are not going to pay for their crimes. There's no consequence at all. So this is what we are faced with in Nigeria.
Well, it's really tough. Yeah. Has the Archdiocese in New York been helpful?
Oh my goodness! Immediately the attack in St. Francis of Assisi took place. His Eminence, Cardinal Dolan, was the first to reach out to me. In fact, he called me practically. Jude, is that your diocese? I said yes. Then I had to, and he had me in his program. You know, he has this serious radio program. I was in that program with him in one of the occasions through Zoom. So
that's great.
So he has been very, very helpful. And just about last week Tuesday, he invited me to his residence with some of the Nigerian priests who work in the Archdiocese of New York, and had a kind of dinner for me. And it was a very well attended event. And he also supported me with some funds and contributions so that I can help those who are still hurting and those who are still suffering from the terrorist attack of June 5th, I beg your pardon.
Bishop, did you want to also add in how helpful the Church in Need has been, that organization?
Okay, the aid to the Church in Need has also been very, very helpful. They sponsored my visit to Washington, to Rome, because in Rome I spoke at an event of the Catholic Legislators Network. These are Catholic legislators all over the world that came for that conference.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes, I spoke.
We only have like a minute left, and could you tell us again how people could be helpful if they want to volunteer or donate?
Yes, you can go to the Facebook page for the Catholic Diocese of Ondo, Ondo, and pinned right to the top is a GoFundMe link. Another way to reach out is via our email address, which is dioceseofondo@aol.com.
And are there volunteer opportunities as well, or just fundraising opportunities?
Fundraising opportunities at this time.
Terrific. And the money that is donated, how is it used?
The funds for the OWAR attack, well, Bishop, did you want to talk to that?
Yes. Initially, we took care of the dead, those who were killed. We practically paid for their funerals and everything that has to do with that. And the people the families were really very grateful for that. You will wonder that why will anybody be grateful for helping to bury? I mean, we buried and we had a big Holy Mass celebration, funeral mass for the dead one of the days, and then they all took the bodies of their deceased families to their various hometowns and the burial. And then we have scholarship for all the children, almost I think 51 or so, 61 children who have become my responsibility in the diocese. And
many parents died, but the children were at home.
Yes.
And Bishop Jude and the Catholic Diocese of Ondo have accepted responsibility, or not accepted, have the responsibility to now care for them throughout their life.
Yes. That is great. And I guess when people make donations, it goes
Yeah.
directly to
To-
people. So sometimes people don't have confidence in international charities because if it's a country with corruption,
Exactly.
it doesn't go directly to people. But you make sure it goes directly
We do.
to
we do.
the people who need it.
We make sure that just last month we were able to pay out the fee for all the children that are under our care.
That's
Those
great.
who lost their breadwinners.
Unfortunately, we ran out of time, and I'm Paul Feiner, and I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and I want to thank Nini DeLuca and Bishop Jude Arrow Dundade for joining us on this program. Thank you so much. I'm Paul Feiner, Greenburgh Town Supervisor.
Thank you.
Thank you.